Alright. Hi everyone, I'm the Input Output. This is TumbleSeed. This is a roguelike from 2017. It came out a few years ago. It was put together by a team based out of Chicago. And it has some pretty unique gameplay, so I'm just gonna get right into it. I will say we're using the weekly challenge mode because that's the only way to have a set seed. And just in case things go wrong, I would like to be able to try the same seed over again. So we are gonna get started in, I'll give a rough countdown because time starts when you start moving. So about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So the very first thing we're going to do is check this room right here. In a weekly challenge run, you have 4 out of the 12 possible auras, which are these unlockable power-ups that you can take with you before you start your run. Now we're into the game proper. So like I said, this is a roguelike involving rolling yourself up a mountain, avoiding holes, and taking out enemies along the way. It's based on an arcade game you may have heard of called Ice Cold Beer, which has similar gameplay where you kind of have a ball on a balance beam like this, and you roll it back and forth trying to get into certain holes while avoiding other holes. So the developers saw that and they thought, how can we make this even more interesting and convert it to a PC game. The game did also come out for PS4 and Switch. It found the most popularity on the Switch with its colorful graphics, and I believe it came out somewhere near the early part of the Switch's life cycle. So what I'm doing in these early areas is just going out of my way a little bit to collect money. You can see these crystals here that I'm picking up. The white ones are worth 1. The yellow ones are worth 3, and there's going to be some green ones later that are worth 5. I'm also going to pick this up. So we see an example there of a free power-up. You start the game with some really basic stuff. You have the heart seed, which I'm using right now to build up some health on the right there. You also have a crystal generating seed, which can give you money if you're totally out of it. We'll try not to use that too much. And then you have a seed that lets you plant a flag so that if you fall in a hole, you return to your flag instead of falling all the way back to the start of the area. So we finished the forest. We're on to the second area, the jungle now. This is where we're going to start to see some tougher enemies, some enemies that will actually follow me and chase me. You also see some of the stationary enemies. It would take too long to describe all of them, but you can kind of see all the chaos going on the screen right now. Oh, I'm going to try and avoid that fly there. These money flies like to hover around the crystals, making them a bit more difficult to pick up. We have a banana snake here, which will chase you down and moves almost about the same speed as you, so I want to avoid those. One thing I forgot to do in Forest, what I'm going to do in this area is check that chamber right over there. About halfway through each area, you can get a free seed power up. So we're going to check what these are. I'm actually going to take this one. So this is a really interesting power up. It's the Rando Bud. And this basically kind of cycles through every other power-up you can possibly get in the game. So you don't know which one you're going to get until you plant it. Like right there, we got a Flood Fruit, which let me fill in holes. This is a weapon called the... I actually forget what this is called, but this is like a little slingshot. Various things like that. There we go. You can see me actually beat an enemy there, and they will drop money once they're defeated. Okay. A lot is happening. We're just going to go back to our standard heart seed. So I've collected a bit of money from the jungle. One thing you can do also in between areas here is check shops, which there's nothing really interesting at the moment. So the aura that I've taken that hasn't helped yet, but it will start to be helpful, especially here in the desert, is the cloak aura. So you can see I'm like invisible there while I'm not moving very quickly. So yeah, whenever you stop moving or you're moving very, very slowly, you get the cloak aura. That's normally a seed power-up that you have to plant. So that's very helpful in the desert, especially for these sniper enemies, because they aren't able to see you and won't shoot at you on their regular cycle. Oops. Normally, ideally, I would want the magnet aura at the beginning of the run, because that would let me collect money without going out of the way. I got a nice hit on that cannon there because I had a free reflect from the very first area. I am going to check this seed chamber as well. There we go. That's what we're looking for. This is the flood fruit, the one we got earlier from the roundabout. So this will be helpful in the boss area to kind of fill in holes, so I'm not worried about dodging those while trying to beat the boss. We're going to go down here for safety and plant our first flag. I like to do that in desert and snow, just so that if we fall in a hole, we don't take a bunch of damage. Might take this a bit slowly, just so we don't get shot at. There we go. We have a plot fly here, there we go, which is similar to the crystal flies. I like that noise. I kind of wiggled around a bit there. It's hard to get your bearings sometimes on the balance beam. So I did take a hit because of that. Yeah, just the gameplay itself is very unique with this like indirect control of the seed here, but it's something that after a couple hundred hours of play you do get used to. There we go, at the top of desert. So now we have the last regular area here, which is snow. Oh, maybe. That's really strange. Uh-oh. Well, that's no good. We might have to restart. That actually has not happened to me. I think it's happened once out of forest, but yeah, the game decided it didn't want to go to snow. Okay, luckily that's why we did the weekly challenge, so we're gonna get to see all of that again. Okay. Yeah, while I recoup from that, if you have any announcements, anything to read, or any donations, now is plenty of time for that.
Well, this looks like a very cute roguelike, so it's only fitting that we have a $5 donation from Anonymous that says, "Keep being cute, chat." And now that I've seen a few minutes of this gameplay, am I the only one that wants to see this speedrun on a Wii balance board?
I would definitely give it a shot.
I'm sure we have the technology to connect it to Steam somehow.
It is actually super interesting. When it came out, there were a bunch of requests to have tilt controls added to the gameplay. And initially, the devs were a little bit reluctant because it makes it kind of counterintuitive to have the balance beam always vertical to match the alignment of the screen, but to have your seed move based on how the screen is tilting. However, they did eventually manage to do it a couple years after the initial release of the game because they ported it to iPhone. And it works surprisingly well with tilt controls there.
This seems like it would be insanely difficult with tilt controls. Like, You're playing with a controller, and I'm like kind of, it's like holding my breath as you go through these really tight openings.
Okay, so some good news is this is a pretty good seed, and we carried lots of health into snow the first time, which we are looking to match or do better than. Bad news is I forgot to check the forest area a second time, so we don't know what the 2 seed power-ups there are. And I am going to skip the jungle and the desert area, or actually I'm going to get the flood fruit in the desert, never mind, I remember. But the random bud is interesting, but it can be more dangerous than it is helpful most of the time. So what I'm doing now is a fairly marathon-safe kind of strategy, where I pick up a bunch of health and try and carry it to the end. You can imagine some of the higher-end, like, speed runs of this game. Your goal is really just to skip everything and get straight to the end. So it involves a lot of like risk-taking just with the movement alone, going over some of the really tight bridges between holes that I'm kind of avoiding in this case. And it also involves kind of damage boosting through, like, especially in desert, the lasers here. If a laser gets in your way, often you don't have a choice if you want a faster time besides just rolling straight through it. Took our first fall, but it was right at the bottom, so that's fine. So you can see, yeah, if you do fall in a hole, it's a pretty stiff penalty for it. You lose damage relative to how high you fall, and you fall all the way back to your last flag that you planted. These lasers have different timings on them that are random. So you can get a short cycle laser or a long cycle laser. I was hoping for a short or a medium cycle there, but it was a long cycle, so I did get hit. I'll look for a bit more health to plant. Something really cool here is I'm going to ride that wall up, just past the hole. That's often an easy way to get around stuff, all the way up through deserts. Snow, you won't usually be so lucky, and you'll usually have to deal with taking some bridges that you don't really want to take. There we go. Ooh, really didn't want to take that. So the cannons actually do 2 damage to you if you do get hit by them. And I didn't see it coming in time, so I couldn't stop my momentum. Another trick with the indirect kind of... That's really strange. The game doesn't want to let me progress past desert. I will leave it to the admins here. If we have time for a kind of different seed run where I could try and see if it won't give me the crash. If we have time. I would make it a little quicker, about like 7 or 8 minutes. Alright, we'll go for 3rd time's the charm. And the benefit to that is we will get to see a different seed, so you can see some different world generation, how it looks different every time. Okay. Just straight adventure this time. And I will get to take my favorite, the magnet aura. So we get to have a true speedrun. Okay, this one's for all the marbles. So you can see with this, immediately, I don't have to go out of my way to get money. Try and beat that slider, there we go. So all I have to focus on really is going to plots. And you might think, wow, the magnet is kind of nice, it's kind of overpowered. But we will see in the next few areas, it does come with its drawbacks. For forest, it's super, super nice. That's forest done again. Now we get to see a jungle with the magnet seed. And as you can see, the downside mainly is that for every crystal that these flies kind of swarm around, they will unfortunately fly straight towards me, and they're often unavoidable, especially if there's multiple of them like that bunch right there. I thought we were entering the seed chamber, but that is actually a unique challenge that generates once per run. That is the jump challenge. So it takes like 30 seconds or so, but if you can get to the top on those bounce pads that you saw there, you can actually get 2 free seed auras. But it's a little out of the way for us right now. Just picked up is the fly trap, so that will let me deal with these enemies that kind of follow me around. There we go. Really nice for these banana snakes because they're very predictable, and they do give you 7 crystals each, so we are doing super well on econ. I just have to plant all the health that I possibly can. I was trying to let that fly pass. Oh, that's no good. That's the relative damage to the height of your fall there, and that is the risk of going with a random seed every time. If it were actually funny, if it were a old version of the game, there used to be a warp that you could take up to upper areas, but unfortunately it doesn't exist with that. So between the tech issues, unfortunately, I think we are gonna call it there. That's the risk with a roguelike. I do hope that everyone enjoyed the game. Okay, thank you so much. I just want to shout out to the devs. I have played this game since it released. It was actually the first time I came to Minneapolis. That weekend was just a couple weekends into the game. They had like a challenge going, and later on they sent me this cute little pin that I haven't found anything to do with yet, but I will eventually. So I just really appreciate you guys for that. So that's it from me.